Hi everyone, my name is Haley Friedman and I'm the co-founder of growthmarketingpro.com, and today I'm going to show you how to use my absolute favorite webinar tool, and it's called WebinarJam. And it's this tool right up here on your screen. I love webinars because they are a great way to keep your customers engaged for 40 plus minutes and sell your products. So WebinarJam makes it really easy to make a webinar. It takes like 10 minutes to set up, and I'm going to show you how to do it. So if you go over to the New Webinar tab, you have two options. You can either do this Express configuration, which is the absolute easiest, but if you really want to see all the features that WebinarJam has to offer, you can click this full configuration, which I'm going to do right now just to show you some of my favorite parts. So it's really easy to set up. It goes step by step, and there's videos that you can watch every step of the way to show you exactly what to do. But basically, you need to give your webinar a name. So let's pretend I'm making a webinar about how to make a webinar. How to make a webinar. It's the name of my webinar. I'm also going to make it the title, the publicly facing title of the webinar. Description is that Haley shows us how to make a webinar using WebinarJam. And you have the option to list it on their on-demand section on WebinarJam. You don't have to, so I'm going to not have mine listed. When you complete a section like this, you need to click confirm before moving on to the next section. You can add more than one presenter. I'm already in here, and you can just add a picture if you want to each of the presenters' names. You can configure the webinar provider. I always choose Jamcast, which is the internal WebinarJam tool. Makes it super easy to record your webinar, but you can also do it using YouTube Live or Facebook Live. Click Next. This is the schedule section, so you're going to get to decide when you want your webinar to go live. You can set a webinar live right now, or you can schedule it for a date in the future, which I'm going to do. Let's say I'm going to do my webinar on a Wednesday at 2 p.m. Pacific time. You can also do a series of presentations, so you can kind of create a weekly recurring webinar is another option. Click confirm. On to the next page, registration. So WebinarJam makes it really easy to create a landing page for people to register for your webinar. So they have all these templates. You can just pick one. It even shows you the conversion rate of each page. I usually just go with a default, something simple that looks like this. And you can customize it if you wanted to change the words, or you want to change the color of the button. It's super easy to customize as well. And so it'll have the host name, how soon your webinar is starting, the date, and someone can click and sign up. Super easy. Confirm. And you can even change the registration form fields if you want something more than just their first name or email address. That's enough for me right now. You can charge people for a webinar. I've never done that, but it's an option. And you can also password protect your webinar. This section is really important. It's the webinar notifications. So they actually allow you to send, when someone registers for a webinar, you can auto send them thanks for signing up. You can remind them 24 hours before the webinar starts, or 15 minutes before the webinar starts. And so the default setting is that everyone will get an immediate welcome message, thanks for signing up. And they'll also get a 15-minute reminder before the webinar starts. But if you also want to have a pre-webinar reminder, say 24 hours before the webinar starts, you can actually add this little pre-webinar email. Send this email 24 hours before the webinar. The email itself uses these merge tags, so it'll pull in the title and description of your webinar. So you don't have to touch anything. You can just click save, and that email will be sent out correctly to everyone. You can also add this option, which is a post-webinar message to tell everyone about a replay. So I like to add this email as well. It'll send the email 24 hours after the webinar starts, and then people will have the recording if they want to rewatch it. And I'm going to confirm. The next section, I don't usually spend a lot of time in. It's about integrations. If you don't want to use their email provider and you actually use your own, like MailChimp or GetResponse or one of these options, you can integrate it through this system and send emails from your platform. You can also embed your affiliate link into your webinar pages, which I do. I'm a WebinarJam affiliate, so when people watch my webinars and click the WebinarJam logo and go on to purchase WebinarJam, I'd get paid. So here you can be an affiliate for WebinarJam too. And you can also integrate a third-party tracking system if you want to use the WebinarJam emails, but you want to get more analytics around it. You can upload analytics there. Thank you page. So after someone signs up, they get sent to a thank you page. There's a default template on here, but you can pick from a bunch of options right here on WebinarJam, so you don't have to worry about making your own landing pages for this stuff. It's all within the platform. So after someone registers for my webinar, they'll get this landing page. Congratulations, you've been registered, and it gives them the information and the link to join the webinar. So I'm going to use their default option and confirm it. You can allow people to auto subscribe to future webinars if you're going to have a series or more webinars in the future and you just want to have, once someone subscribes, they subscribe to all of them. I don't usually use that feature, but you can. You can also survey your registrants, so you can add a bunch of questions to ask them. This tab right here is the live tab, and this is my favorite part, where there's all this fun features. So you can have a countdown page. So when people visit the site, when people visit the webinar page and they're waiting for you to get there to start the webinar, there's a countdown and you can put information on that countdown page, for example. So once someone comes into the webinar room, they're just sitting in here, it says it's starting soon and there's a countdown. So, and you can edit it if you want to, like, give them information to read while they're sitting here waiting for the webinar to start. And confirm that. And then there's all this other fun stuff, like you can pre-configure a webinar poll or a webinar offer or a video, or you can share a file during your webinar or have a slide presentation, and this is where you would configure all that stuff in advance. So if you knew you want to run a specific offer and you want to have a pop-up in the middle of the webinar that shows people your offer and they can actually click on a button that sends them to your website to go make a purchase, for example, you can configure a webinar, an offer in here. So you can click add new offer, name of the offer, let's say it's get a free trial of WebinarJam. That's the name of the offer. That'll be the offer headline. I can upload an image, and then I can add text above the button. The best webinar tool in the world. Try it now. Free. Can do the button, and then I can have the button link to a link that sends people to WebinarJam to go purchase the tool. So so once I make this offer, and when the webinar is actually live, I can click a button that says show offer to people in the live chat, and so they'll get this offer in the live chat that they can click on. You can also apply urgency by adding a countdown. So let's say this offer is only available for 5 minutes. It'll add a countdown to the top to make people feel like they need to click right away. And you can also apply scarcity. So you can say there's only 4 more units left or something like that. And so that helps improve your click-through rates, which is pretty cool. So that offer feature is one of my favorite things. I'm just going to put a URL in here so it lets me save. Let me. But in real life, you'd save it. So you can add an offer, a poll, a slide presentation, anything you want to use inside your live webinar. And then you have a replay page. This is what would be sent to people after the webinar if they want to watch the replay. And then you're done. So what's next? You can test your webinar and you can send links to your live webinar. So I'm going to go to my dashboard and show you how that works. So the webinar is called How to Make Webinar. You can run a test or you can look at your links. So first I'm going to show you your links. You can invite people to your webinar, and the link to invite people would be down here. You can also embed the registration box on your website or send someone a direct link into the live room. You and your other presenters will have their own links, and that's because you'll be inside a control center. There's both the live room that attendees are inside, and then there's a control center where you can decide what you want to say in the live chat. You can post your offers up from there, and then the replay recording, which is something that you can send out to everyone after the fact. So if you want to run a test, you have all the same options in the testing environment. And so this is a great way to, if you have more than one presenter, you guys can run a test beforehand, make sure everything works properly, and then go to your real links and run the actual webinar. It is super easy. It has made webinars a breeze for me. And if you want to automate if you want to do it just one time on WebinarJam, it records the whole webinar every single time. You can then take that recording and turn it into an ever webinar, which I'll talk to you about in just a moment on the next video. But ever webinar makes it easy to automate your webinars so that you never have to do a live webinar again. But WebinarJam is a tool for live webinars, and it's the best one out there. It's the cheapest option compared to alternatives like GoToWebinar, which absolutely sucks. That tool is like almost $3,000, whereas WebinarJam is, I think it's around $200. So it's way more affordable. I think it's $200 or $300 per year. So it's more affordable, it's easier to use, it has way more features, and it's my favorite. So I recommend it. Thanks guys, thanks for watching.